कर्मण्येव अधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः मा ते संगोऽस्त्वकर्मणि.
Happiness is an elusive state of mind, not to be gained by clumsy pursuit. It is given to those who do not sue for it. To be unconcerned about a desired good is probably the only way to possess it. This leaf, so complete in itself, is only part of the tree, and this tree, so complete in itself, is only part of the forest. And the forest runs down from the hill to the sea, and the sea, so complete in itself, rests like a raindrop in the hand of God.
Soon after independence, when they were leaving India in hordes, one Englishman decided to make the reverse journey. After achieving success as a novelist in Britain and winning awards, he forsook that country to return to the land of his birth. It was a move that could have ended his writing career. Instead, he has become one of the most celebrated writers of India. For almost half a century now, Ruskin Bond has been writing stories, novellas, essays, poems and children's books. He has written over 500 short stories and articles, as well as anthologies of stories of ghosts, railways, humour and children. A Sahitya Academy Award and Padma Shri winner, Bond is today one of the most versatile, popular and most humble of Indian writers.
Here we are in Landau, Mussoorie, which I am strongly tempted to call Bondistan, because the Raja of Landau, Mussoorie lives here in this humble palace. Hello Ruskin, are you there?
Hello. Acha, it's
yeah,
Satish.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you, and
yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
I know, well, it's been such a long time. Thank you for giving your time.
No, thank you so much. Let's go in there.
Okay, yeah. Your favorite place?
Yes.
So, this is the view, the famous view which you mention in your books. Ruskin, tell me about your early life. I've always wondered, why did you come back to India?
It's a long story when I look back on it. When I first went to England, shortly after leaving school, I really had no idea if I would come back or not. And my mother and stepfather had sent me off thinking I'd probably do better for myself out there. But the bonds with India were so strong, especially my relationships, friends, places I'd grown up with, that very soon I was longing to come back.
It is very interesting that your first novel was published by the same woman, and Diana Athill, who published Naipaul, and you won one of the most prestigious awards an Indian writer could win in those early days.
Yes, the Rees Prize was prestigious, although it wasn't worth a great deal of money. In fact, book prizes then did not carry very large sums of prize money as they do today. So you had to really continue working hard. You couldn't just sit back on your laurels.
Here, in Doon Valley's Astley Hall, lay the little flat where the adventure of writing really got underway for Bond. Working away in the light of a kerosene lamp, Bond also found time to gaze at college girls walking or cycling past Astley Hall. In The Lamp is Lit, one of his many autobiographical pieces, Bond tells us that when he came back to Dehradun after a 3-year stint in London, he had just 800 rupees to start a new life. After that day in 1955, Bond has firmly stayed put here. Bond's love for the mountains and walking about in mountain towns is a very important part of his amiable personality. In Rain in the Mountains, he says, "My greatest pleasure lies in taking a path, any old path will do, and following it until it leads me to a forest glade, or village, or stream, or windy hilltop." Despite his evident Indianness, Ruskin Bond has also maintained his links with his own peculiar historical origin, the Anglo-India. He has written books on hill stations set up by the earliest English visitors, has edited anthologies of ghost writings, railway stations, train stories, and various other written memorabilia associated with the Raj.
After all, I grew up in pre-independence days as a small boy. 1947, I was 12, and at that time, being either an India-born European or an Anglo-Indian, as I grew older, I felt more and more like an Indian, and as I do today, completely Indian. But it was a gradual process.
But I know one thing, that being an Indian, I take things for granted everywhere. I don't notice things which you do.
Yes.
Does that help, or is that an advantage or not?
Well, I too now sometimes begin to take things for granted, and I have to force myself to look at them sort of with fresh eyes, or in a way as an outsider would see them. And I guess railway stations are the most fascinating places to observe people, you know, and humanity on the move. People coming and going to all destinations all over India. And perhaps that was one of the fascinations that railway stations and the trains had for the British too, because most of them are railway buffs. And we take our railway stations and trains very much for granted.
The Garhwal Himalayas that Bond has so memorably recreated in each of his books has now been transformed by knee-jerk development, the displacement of people, the large-scale deforestation. How does he relate to this fast-changing life and landscape?
We've got to see that they survive, instead of cutting them down and doing away with our forests. I think, you see, people are more and more aware of the importance of our forest wealth. And of trees even individually. Although there was a period, I'd say, in the 60s and 70s when it was sort of open season on trees, and there was a lot of deforestation. But now I think there's a greater, apart from laws that have been enacted, there's also a greater public awareness, I think, of the importance of environment in general.
Why forests and trees are important for humans?
Well, apart from the succor they give to wildlife and keep a balance in the climate, they also prevent a lot of erosion. And you can see in those areas in the mountains where there is no forest cover, how easy and how quickly it is for landslides to occur. Sometimes you hear of even whole villages being washed away. Yeah. And you'll find that happens in areas where it's just usually bare hillside and just not enough tree or forest cover to hold the earth and hold the land. You don't just need trees, you need bushes too, and all kinds of plant life, you know.
Recently, Ruskin Bond also compiled an anthology of great Indian love stories, thus completing his engagement with India by travelling into times past. Set in regions of great natural beauty, where Kamdev, the god of love, picks his victims with consummate ease, these stories and lyrics celebrate the myriad aspects of love. Very few Indian writers can boast of such a wide range of interests.
You have done this collection of famous Indian love stories. I was very impressed. You must have spent a lot of time studying it.
Well, studying certainly sources for making up this collection. One was a collection of classical Indian love stories, and the other love stories from around the world, for which I did a certain amount of reading. But at the same time, of course, I did, when I was in my 20s, go through my so-called romantic period, when I wrote a few love stories, and stories like Night Train at Deoli and others in that vein.
Well, I love this thing about you. You have mentioned in your books that you had some kind of romances, but they did not really materialize into a full-blown love affair.
I guess they often were stories of unrequited love, and maybe that's the story of my life. But at the same time, I feel that maybe that was how it should have been.
In 1993, recognizing his importance as a modern Indian writer, Ruskin Bond was awarded the Sahitya Akademi Award for his book, Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra.
This Sahitya Akademi Award must have come as a great relief, because it came at a time when things were not looking very good.
That's right. It was given to me in 92 or 93, and it was a time when I was financially not very strong. So it did help, and it also perhaps brought me to the attention of publishers and the reading public. And I think it was something for which I was very appreciative. As I walked home last night, I saw a lone fox dancing in the bright moonlight. I stood and watched, then took the low road, knowing the night was his by right. Sometimes, when words ring true, I'm like a lone fox dancing in the morning dew.
For millions of Indians, adults and children alike, this Indian Englishman presents the supreme spectacle of a lone fox dancing away eternally. Long ago he ran away from school, and then from England, where he was a literary sensation long before most of today's celebrity writers were born. He gave up that fame and celebration for something quieter, something simpler, something gentler. The world has moved on. Ruskin Bond is now a famous writer and lives with a large adopted household in the most modest and unassuming of ways. With each passing year, he seems more and more an extension of the very habitat that has become synonymous with him. Dance on, old fox, for we remain as mesmerized today as we were when we first encountered the restless Rusty, getting rusted amidst discipline, longing to be set free, to be left to dazzle like the flight of the pigeons, fulfilling his bond with the mountains.
This land is mine, although I do not own it. This land is mine because I grew up on it. This dust, this grass, this tender leaf and weathered bark, all in my heart are finely blended until my time on earth is ended.